portfolio calculator has been updated through April the 16th, Friday. These are the latest results. We see several of the portfolios at equity peaks. We're going to go over each portfolio. This is all 78 strategies from November the 24th. We put this together on November the 24th. It is up 92K on the year on the signals that it has called. We started out in a drawdown. Q4 was choppy once again as a review, and it has made it all the way back to equity peaks. It's pulled back, and now it's approaching equity peaks once again. Good trading on the year. This is a function. This drawdown right here is a function of higher volatility. So you have this drawdown, and then you have this worst case drawdown, and then it recovers. And so you have to be prepared for that. If you start in a drawdown, you can buffer these worst case drawdowns a little better. Starting in drawdowns also allows for any technical errors. If you start at an equity peak and you have any error at all, that will add to your risk in worst case drawdown if that error goes against you. So keep that in mind. Always better to start at a little bit of a drawdown than right at equity peaks to buffer those worst case drawdowns or any technical errors that occur. Regardless of your setup, anything can happen with technical errors. It can happen to anyone, even if you have the most advanced setup. Technology is not 100% perfect, and your broker sometimes has outages, as we have experienced in the past. So all strategy access shortlist 51 put together on December 1st is at equity peak as of Friday, April the 16th, and we are at up 12K on the month on these signals, up 28K on the year. Low drawdown portfolio, top 51 that we selected going into 2021. And then here's the short list 51 with 7 new strategies that we developed recently in Q4 for 2021. This is put together on December the 7th. And this portfolio is up 67K on the year, up 292.50. It recently made an equity peak, but it ended Friday 1580 from the most recent equity peaks, as the VSD breakouts were a bit choppy. Stock index portfolio 27. You can trade this with the micros as well, and it's doing well at equity peaks, up 28K on the month, having its best month, and you see up 40K on the year. And let's take a look at the 200K portfolio. This one is on a hot streak. I know that many are waiting to start this on a drawdown, and it's gone just straight up recently this month especially. We can see the daily P&Ls here. If we scroll over here to the Calcs tab and you go down to the these are the daily P&Ls in DS, column DS, and then this is the current drawdown. So it's made an equity peak here. Had this drawdown, equity peak, equity peak, equity peak. This is the weekend, equity peak, down day, equity peak. So it's been on a hot streak lately, and it was, making equity peaks back here as well. And it had this $5,300 drawdown on March the 29th. But since April started, we haven't seen more than about a $3,700 drawdown. So the ideal target on this one is 5 to 8K, but sometimes this thing gets really hot and it doesn't pull back, and so that's what we've seen. So it's possible to start with a 3K drawdown. 5 to 8K is best. That is the 200K portfolio. Let's look at the 50K portfolio. It is up 2292.50 on the month, and it's in a $227 drawdown. And close to equity peaks on this, up 10K on the year. And then let's look at the micro stock index, micro gold portfolio. This is the base portfolio that made a worst case drawdown. We created the conservative one, and so we still like this one. I think it'd be good to get in on this one if it ever has a $2,000 drawdown. So the risk to worst case drawdown would be $2,300 and per micro. So it made this worst case drawdown, and then it's made an equity peak recently. You can see the run up when this drawdown curve goes to 0 right here. It is at equity peak. So it made this extra volatility in the markets, especially the NASDAQ, and then it made this equity peak here just this month. And so the conservative portfolio here that we're going to look at next has less NASDAQ strategies. And so it depends on your capitalization, your ability to withstand extra volatility and drawdowns. This one has 1977. By the way, these are listed on the micros. These are custom for the micros because the NASDAQ, E-mini, S&P, and gold have 1/10 contracts. They're the most liquid micro contracts at 1/10 the size. There are other micros and minis, but none are at 1/10 the size, so it's hard to scale it. For example, crude oil is a half of a full contract instead of 1/10, and so your lowest common denominator, you'd have to trade 5 micros on the stock indexes in gold to match the half crude oil contract. So that's why we have these on micros. They can be traded on minis. So some of you trade this. Instead of micro stock index and micro gold, you could just trade the stock index and gold, and then stock index and gold conservative. You'd multiply these numbers by 10. So you'd be multiplying this by 10, and it would be, for example, the conservative version, 1977.50 drawdown per micro. You have 27 strategies, and on the regular size contracts, that would be a $19,775 max worst case drawdown. Your account size required would be 182,000 instead of 18,200, and so total profit over drawdown is 64.31, and it's up 44.09 on the year, up 17.21 on the month. It's consistent. It's consistent, and the drawdown cycle is consistent across the board. It hasn't made that worst case drawdown because it trades less aggressively than the base strategy, base setup. It will make less, and it will be less volatile. They have less volatile equity curve. So this is where the latest results are in the portfolio calculator. As you can see, the 200K portfolio ends the week at equity peaks. The stock index portfolio ends the week at equity peaks. The short list 51 plus 7, that one's not at equity peaks. So there's three out of these 8 portfolios that we're tracking right now that end the week at equity peaks, with most of them near equity peaks. So these are the latest updates for the Capstone Trading Systems portfolio calculator as of April the 16th, 2021.